Hello guys, here again with the explanation video that I promised in my last video, showing off the fully automatic brewing system. First and foremost, I want to say a huge thank you to Lisa, who's also on the Patreon server and a good friend of mine, who helped a lot in the conceiving of this project, getting the first ideas on how to do it, theorizing on what the best way would be. We had some theories and different approaches to this at first, but together we came to the conclusion that this design would be the best one. Also, very quickly, I want to give a few special shout outs to a few people, namely my Patreons, which would be Brandon, aka the Doctor, Colin, aka Midget Man, Cray Cray Benene, Daikon Stew, Lisa, Jenner, Jordan, Ryan, Tinu, and Trilly. You know who you are. Thank you so much. You're also all very regularly in my streams and have chosen to support me. It means a lot. It helps me a ton. So yeah, once again, thanks guys. Getting right to it then. Firstly, a very important thing. If you just have the schematic and don't look at the save file, or you try to paste the schematic in a multiplayer world, you might find that the containers are not filled correctly. So let's quickly go over all the essential ones and let me show you what you need to put in there. So firstly, at the beginning of the storage room, on the left you can see hoppers. This hopper needs to have an item. It is a minecart with a furnace now. It can be anything. The hopper behind it also needs to have an item. Once again, can be anything that does not stack, that is not the same item as this one. So like if you place, for example, a dirt block in here, do this, make this a sand block, something like that. It can be basically anything. On the other side, directly on the opposite side, in this hopper, another item which also does not stack with the other ones. So just 3 different items. I chose different minecarts here now because they're easily distinguishable and very clear. Another important container that needs an item is this furnace here. It needs 32 of any item. That stacks up to 64. It's just here to reduce the signal of this comparator. And inside the room you can see 2 more hoppers, one of which needs 5 items, also stackable to 64. All the rest of the chests, so the ones up here, are just the resource chests. I will get to in which order to fill those back or later in the video. As well as, so yeah, this chest, and obviously the chests down here in the storage, or the barrels, they're gonna fill up themselves. I forgot one. Right above these hoppers back here, we see another hopper clock which needs 54 items. It can also be 52 to 54. It can also be more. Doesn't really matter, but it makes no sense to do more. It's just gonna delay everything. So yeah, 54 is a good amount. It keeps the system safe, and I recommend it. Okay, as you saw, I have split up the room into different versions, and those actually quite closely resemble the development process of this. So at first we started with just the brewer, then we get to a little bit more complicated programming of the potions, and then the whole thing. But over here it is just the brewer. It's a design where there is 9 hoppers above 9 brewing stands which feed the items. On this side the water bottles come from here, which is an automatic water bottle filling machine, and on this side we have the blaze powder. Up here are the resources. I'm going to just quickly stand here like this and go over them so you can see in which order they need to be. Why they are in this order I will explain in a second as well. So the basic concept of this is that you go and you program your potions. So for example, we wanted to make a speed potion now. We would push down this lever to activate this dropper in case of a signal here. And let's also make it extended, no, 2, so improved. So we flick this lever to activate the glowstone. The redstone and glowstone are in potions always mutually exclusive, which is why the torch here makes sense, because when the glowstone is on, the redstone is always off, and vice versa. So this just made the wiring a little bit less complicated, and it makes perfect sense. So right now, nether wart is activated. It's by default always activated because there's only one potion which doesn't need nether wart, which is a weakness. we have sugar activated, and we have glowstone activated. So if we were to put a signal in this now, we hear clicking, and if we check the rail, there's one nether wart, one sugar, and one glowstone, which when activated would brew us one speed potion now. This is not exactly how this design works, because as you saw here, there's 9 brewing stands, which is why I have a clock down here. It's a 18 tick delay right here. So this can pulse 9 times. Obviously, turning on and off is 1 redstone tick, so it needs 18 ticks time, redstone ticks, to pulse 9 times. So pressing this is gonna activate those 9 times. And if we go in here and stop the minecart on the track, which we're gonna approach now, we can verify 9 nether wart, 9 sugar, and 9 glowstone dust. That number is really important, because running over these rails at full speed, the minecart loses 1 item in each hopper. So going over here, one way it's gonna put 1 nether wart in each hopper. Going back, it's gonna put 1 glowstone in each hopper, and then because it detects here that the minecart is still full or has an item in it, it's gonna go back once more and put 1 glowstone in each hopper, and we can verify that by pushing it. Oops, getting up. So it comes back, and there's sugar, glowstone in those, and at the very bottom we have the nether wart everywhere. So it worked perfectly. It's activated through here. Here we can see the comparator, which detects if there's an item in here, and as soon as there is, it sends away the water bottle minecart. It starts a timer back here, which keeps the hoppers down here locked for 20 seconds after this is empty, because obviously as soon as this empties out, this is going to turn off, and if there wasn't this 54 item timer, these would unlock immediately and not brew completely. Okay, next up we get to the exciting part, the torch towers, which program the potions. They're right here. It's 20, and that's no coincidence, because we also have 20 potions down there. Because one of these towers represents exactly 1 potion. So flicking this lever is gonna program, for example, a levitation potion, because we have the phantom membrane here, and it activates redstone, so it's a extended levitation potion. Something like that. How I did that, I'm just quickly gonna demonstrate. Earlier we showed sugar, so let's do sugar now as well. What we wanna do, we obviously need to be able to get power to all of them separately, so this is why they're at different heights like this. So this one is gonna come from here, and this is gonna come from up here. We wanna be up here now, so we build a few blocks out, and we have a torch here like this, we have a torch here like this, and another one like here, and then one below, which turns off the upper signal. Put a lever on this, and right now flicking this lever is just gonna enable or disable sugar. Nether wart is always disabled, that's fine. Enabled, that's fine. So flicking this lever is just gonna activate this. What I did back there now as well, I used this torch with a repeater below to grab 2 signals, because obviously we also need to make them improved, we need glowstone. So that is why I have a long row of blocks going right here into this. So I'm gonna need another repeater here, and activating this lever now is, oops, we missed the redstone. It's gonna activate glowstone and sugar, and if we were to activate the system down there now, we would get speed potions. And that's what I did with all the towers. So if we go over here, we can just verify that. Let's switch this off. This should be a speed one. So right here we activate sugar, and we don't activate glowstone, which means redstone is activated. If we pick the one next to it here, we still activate sugar, but we activate redstone because I have the repeaters down here. As you can see, it's 8. They're all linked to the torches which need a glowstone. The redstone just doesn't do anything because it doesn't need to be, because if it's not glowstone, it is redstone, which is why this torch here was so helpful. And obviously, each torch is just going to activate the same redstone line, which makes the entire thing pretty simple. The most difficult part was find the order of the potions, so in which order they should be in the storage system, which made it the most compact up here. Obvious choices were grouping potions which require the same ingredients. For example, speed and slowness all require sugar, so putting them all next to each other just made sense. All of these potions, slowness and harming, all need the spider eyes, which why the spider eye is right here. But then they also all needed fermented spider eye rather often, which is why the fermented spider eyes are also pretty close to each other, but with speed right here and slowness right here, because the other grouping made a lot of sense too, but it's still pretty compact. All the other ones, if we go back down here into the actual system, you can also see regeneration are together, obviously, because it makes sense with the gas tiers, which are right here. These two go to gas tiers, and these two go to the rabbit's foot for the 2 sun boost potions. So just grouping potions cleverly allowed me to get this programming in here pretty compact. And yeah, flicking every lever is gonna give us a different potion. They're all different outcomes. And that's the main brains of the system, and very important. 2 more modifiers can obviously be added. So if you were just to build this as a, well, semi-automatic potion system where you just have to flick a lever and then press a button and potions will come, which is honestly already pretty great. Just add 2 more levers right here, which also activate the splash and which also activate the lingering. Obviously it can't be like this because this won't work. You can't just add Dragon's Breath, so if you add the Dragon's Breath you also need to do this one. But yeah, it's just 2 quick extra selectors to enable the gunpowder and the Dragon's Breath. So for example, if we were to flick those 2 and this one, we would get a extended jump boost potion lingering, because all of these are on. We can test it by pressing the button down here, and we should see all the items getting dispensed. Nether wart, jump boost, redstone, and the Dragon's Breath. And we can see them all entering the hoppers. And now we can also see the mechanism. The minecart, as I already told you, leaves 1 item each time, which results in the items landing in the hoppers in the perfect order for the brewing stand to grab them. Also, very important, hoppers above brewing stands might glitch out. So if you rebuild this and you think, why the hell are there 2 hopper lines? It's not really necessary, you are right. But it is actually necessary for this to not break, because sometimes these hoppers just won't accept items if the rail will be directly above them. It is bugged. I talked to Mango about it. It definitely is a bug. But yeah, like this, as you can see, all the potions are brewing in order. Let's get to the largest part of the room, which is the storage, selector, and return system. As you can see down here, it requires a lot of rails, a lot of observers, and redstone blocks, mostly, and repeaters. And I'm going to explain what they all do. So over here we have our barrels. All of them are filled. Behind we have a chest, which is our detector and buffer chest. If this were to be empty, we would activate this comparator. I can just quickly do it. Which would just result in this torch turning off, and the item that was earlier, as you saw, stuck here, getting stuck in here, because this torch powers this block. It activates this comparator, sending a signal up, which goes into this observer, which powers this rail, which powers this observer, which goes through into this rail, into this block, which activates the torch. The torch, which is programmed for regen potion that you saw earlier back there. And we can already hear dispensing items, as you see. It is a improved regen potion of splash. That's gonna fill it up, so we can delete those. They're gonna end up in there in a second again. And this is the concept of how all of them work. This was rather simple for the splash potions. Obviously, it's easiest for the regen potions, because there I just need to do what I did back there. I need to detect, okay, it's empty, it sends a signal, the signal gets caught here and goes up into the torch tower, and well, we're done. It's programmed. I didn't want to make 3 different torch towers, so 60 torch towers for every potion though. So what I did, I reused the existing ones, which is why they're directly opposite of each other. So the regen potion is directly opposite of the splash potion. And that made it pretty simple by just having, as I showed you a second ago, having this signal carry straight over and send the same on signal as this torch would send. A little bit more difficult it became with the lingering potions, because they are obviously not directly opposite or like lined up with the torch towers. I first had designs where they were to the right, which would have made it pretty easy to line up these torch towers too, but that was kind of ugly and I didn't like it. I wanted them to all be in one walkway. So what I did instead, I once again reused existing lines. So I have them color coded here. The orange signal, which is for weakness, needs to go here for the orange, which then needs to go here for the orange. And that's exactly what I did. I detect the signal here, so if they were empty now, we can take them out. We should see, oh yeah, there it is. It turned on, and the item got caught, and once this turns off, we're gonna send the signal up, which is gonna power this rail, or unpower it actually, updating this observer into this one, this rail down over here, updating this observer, and it goes into this rail and activates this redstone block, which we see exactly now. Perfect. So orange went to orange, and that's the same concept for all of them. So the red one, for example, goes into these two rails, goes through this long observer line, powering this rail, which powers or updates this observer again, which just does the same thing, going back there into the appropriate redstone block, which is not activated now because this is activated. That's exactly another important point. Why is this hopper line here? Well, that's simply because obviously if several are empty and several signals get sent, we cannot send several signals up the torch tower. If several levers are activated, I can quickly show you, like we activate like a bunch of those, everything is going to end up turned on up here, and sending the signal now, the clock signal to brew the potions, is just going to create a mess. So obviously we need a single selection system which only sends up one signal at a time, which is why there's only one item in circulation at one time. So the other ones are still stuck here. This is just to speed it up, because the item approaching here sends a signal right over there, unlocking this item. We basically just skip this ice path because it just takes too much time for the item to get over there. It makes the entire room slower. So it just made sense. Yeah, and the same thing I did over here. This was a little bit more difficult. So for example, here from pink, we needed to get there to pink. And what I did again, similar concept, just a little bit further. I went into the torch, I extended the torch tower into these rails, into this observer, all the way straight over here, further, into this observer pointing down, which points into this rail, which is exactly the same rail that comes from over there, where we are opposite again, and it goes into pink. And that's the same with all of them once again. Blue goes over here, updating this observer, going straight, and into, there's a rail below this. I don't really want to break it right now. Rail below this, and which goes into green right here. The ray system works similar, by which I mean that as soon as these turn on, so we get the item stuck in here, we can just quickly demonstrate that again. The item gets stuck in here. And let's quickly deactivate the safety switch. This piston retracts because this comparator turns on, and there's a torch, pick it up. There's a torch right here, which turns off, retracting the piston, meaning or programming to the system that the minecart, once it falls down here, ends up in this slot. For that, I obviously needed a rail system which would bounce the minecart back and forth. Many people also have asked what the cobwebs are for. The cobwebs are simply just to slow the minecart down on the track, to give it enough time to empty itself. It's a genius system, which I basically took from the storage room that Panda built on the ZipKrowd server back in the day. it just keeps the minecart there for long enough to empty itself, and I don't need any timing, nothing like that. It's just perfect timing, and without any redstone and without any complications. The rails themselves are a little bit interesting, so let me just quickly demonstrate how to build them, because those can be a little bit tricky, especially if you want to do it in survival. There are two orientations, obviously. The ones where the trapdoor's on this side and the other one where it's on the right side. I'm going to show you both because they are different in building them. So let's quickly build up a little bit of a test thing here. Give me some rails, different ones, and some redstone blocks. And oh yeah, this is the blocks that would get retracted. So yeah, as I said, what we want a system that bounces the minecart here, then around, and then around, and then around, and then around, once it finds its, or until it finds its slot. So how do we start? We start at the very start, powered rail, rail. It's pretty straightforward, and then just place it back and just make the circle. Then another rail right here, diagonal or parallel to this one, powered rail below. You cannot do a power rail here, it's gonna screw it up. So you need to place the normal rail first, and then like this. And then what you test, you destroy this rail and place it. If it does this snake line, it's wrong. If it does it, place a redstone block above. You want this closed circle. This is what you want. Once this happens, you break this one curved rail, place another powered rail, a rail to the left of it, and then above. That's also very important, because if you do not place this rail first and place the rail above immediately, it's going to connect like this, also breaking it. So the order is very important in this entire thing. It can be a little bit fiddly, but you'll figure it out. So once again, we create this circle, normal rail, powered rail, redstone block above, normal rail, replace it with powered rail, rail on left, above, and then just keep going. This one above again. Oh yeah, once we finish this, we can destroy these. They're not gonna update or whatever. And then let's just extend it a little bit further. And then, oops, I screwed up too. At first, yeah. So the order is very important. And then just place the redstone block like this to power them all. On the other side, it can be a little bit different, or it will be a little bit different. How exactly it works for you strongly depends on the orientation of your brewing room. So just test out different variants and powering things until it works, and you will figure it out. So the other side, the same thing. I start from here. We place the blocks. We put the powered rail like this, and here we can test again. Will this connect immediately? And this time, without the redstone block above, it works. However, I already told you the orientation is different. So placing the rail here first now and wanting to connect it is still gonna break it. Yeah, that is because simply, as I told you, orientation. So what you need to do if that happens, even if you follow the advice to put the rail on the left first, you replace these normal blocks with redstone blocks. Then it should work no problem. So let's build the thing again, replace this powered rail here, and then as you can see, works like a charm. This has the benefit that you don't actually need as many redstone blocks above, and it looks a little bit tidier. But in function, they all do the same. They start here. The minecart can be powered or let into the system from here. So you put it there, and then it's gonna circle around and until it finds its slot. Let's quickly test it. If it doesn't find the slot, it's gonna like glitch back into the block weird. So let's test it. It should fall down right here. And exactly that's what it did. And it says the same thing here. Feed the minecart into the system. Oops, redstone block. Like so. And we should see it fall down here. Perfect. Similarly, the minecart return can be a little bit tricky because, as you can see, there's also some interestingly placed rails. So let me quickly demonstrate that one as well. I start with a line of redstone blocks as a base. In the system we would have hoppers instead of this iron block, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm just doing it with iron blocks here to demonstrate the rail placement. Do not place these blocks yet. They need to be free for now to place rails there in order to get the steep rail like this. After the first one, just always start from the middle. Middle, bottom, top, middle, bottom, top, middle, bottom, top. Then you can remove those place your regular blocks, and we get the nice steepness. At the very bottom, to get the return, we want to start from the back. So if the minecart needs to go in this direction, start with the last rail and start curving them like this. If this does not work, so for example, if you wanted to go this way now, and we start at the back, it's gonna curve incorrectly, as you can see. They're just gonna make a circle here. What you need to do, you need to place redstone blocks below, and then it's gonna curve them correctly. You cannot place them up here, because this is gonna get the minecart stuck. So very important, place them below. A few minor things, as you maybe have noticed, there's these long redstone lines here with lots of repeaters. If you were to build this and you don't want those are not mandatory. What they do, they turn off the system or the torch towers and the pistons when the system is running through. So disabling this, we don't have any active brewings right now, but the items are going around right now. And disabling this as well, the safety switch basically, is we're gonna notice a lot of movement. These are moving all the time, and these are also moving all the time. It's kind of nice to visualize where the items are or which potion is selected, as we can see here now. These redstone blocks are gonna go through an order all the way. These are all the splash potions. Now they're gonna start from the middle and go to the right. These are the first batch of lingering. Now they're gonna start in the middle again and go to the left. The second batch of lingering. And now they're not gonna activate any redstone blocks because we're in the normal potions. This pretty much directly resembles what I told you earlier with the reusing of redstone lines and activating the redstone blocks in order, stuff like that. But yeah, as you can see, lots of movement, which also creates possible failure zones. So this is why this is here. If this torch is on, all of these are basically deactivated. It's not that important. It just keeps the room more quiet and, yeah, I don't know, lag friendly, and can possibly eliminate some sources of failure. Over here, we see our automatic selectors for splash and lingering potion, and these are also controlled by the room, not by us. So as soon as we hit the first splash potion, which is right here, this is our first splash potion, so we can quickly take out the potions again and delete them. So as soon as we hit our first splash potion, the items are wandering around right now, we should only see this one activated. Let's quickly wait a second until this turns on. There we go. Only slash activated. This happens by the same principle. We just reuse already existing lines. So I told you earlier the signal goes in here, but then instead of going straight only, it also gets detected here. It goes into a rising edge, which just sends a 1-tick pulse to this piston, locking the redstone block next to the piston and making it eligible for the redstone signal to send gunpowder. Same thing happens back here on our first lingering potion, which is the night vision potion, the red one. We grab the signal here into a rising edge once again, and to the signal goes all the way over here. Same principle, sending a 1-tick into this piston. So if we take those out, let me quickly find those. Here they are. And we wait a little bit until this is full. We should see both activate. And lastly, back here, this is our first potion without any special effects. This is the weakness potion. This is here. It's the first independent torch, because these torches here are also powered by these pistons. So be sure to detect the weakness potion from the first independent torch, which only activates ever if the regular weakness potions are required. Here they are. And then, well, it's a little bit lengthy, but then I have a long observer line up here, which also sends a signal over another rising edge, deactivating both again. Because obviously, as soon as we reach there, we don't need any of those, and we only want regular potions. That's also then very important to not turn these torch towers off and not lock those, because when running through, we exactly want these to activate to program the specific modifier. So when building or when using the safety mechanism or the lag-friendly mechanism, be sure to leave out the repeaters in the important positions. quickly wait. Oh yeah, here we go. This one is now on, and we should be able to see this rail being off, which is our first lingering potion. All right. With that, I think this should conclude a brief rundown of how this thing works. If you have more questions, post them in the comments. I will try to answer most. And if you get to building this and you run into any problems, let me know as well. And yeah, with that, I would say I hope you enjoyed. And have fun using potions, have fun brewing. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.